Good morning, Wareham. It is Monday, October 21st, and I have a fantastic show here for you. The news headlines, the weather report, and today in history. This morning, your favorite selectman, Alan Slavin, will be in the studio to discuss the new elementary school name, the debate hovering about regarding naming the new elementary school. So he's going to come to weigh in, and on Friday, we're going to bring the school department to weigh in on the same topic. But first, I would like to take this moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the morning show. So stay tuned, because the news and the weather are next. All right, Wareham, we got the following stories. Wareham Free Library Archive has received a grant from the Massachusetts State Historic Records Advisory Board. As part of the grant, the library will receive help from roving archivists who will help the library create better methods of accessing resources and creating and updating policies to help preserve the library's special collections. The roving archivist program provides leadership, advocacy, and guidance to help ensure the identification, preservation, and the use of Commonwealth historic resources, both public and private. And to another news of the day, acting on tips that came in over the last 2 weeks, the Wareham Police Detectives Division launched an investigation into suspected drug dealing at 6 Windy Hill Drive in West Wareham, which led to arrest of 3 people. The 3 people were placed under arrest after detectives found suspected heroin as well as multiple pills, as a digital scale and corner bags, all consistent of illegal drug activity at the Windy Hill Drive location. The arrested people were Robert Meehan, who is 28 years old, Hilary Carey, who is 33 years old, and Priscilla Bellevue, who is 31 years old, all from Wareham. And to another news of the day, the Wareham Historical Society invites the public to an exhibit and film event celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Tremont Nail Company tonight, October 21st at 7 p.m. At the Methodist Meeting House, 495 Main Street. Documents, artifacts, photographs, and displays will be presented. Refreshments will be served after the program. For more information, please visit the Wareham Historical Society website at warehamhistoricalsociety.com. And State Representative Susan William Gifford of Wareham announced that House Bill, an act relative to the authority of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, has been scheduled for a public hearing before the Joint Committee on Economic Development and Emerging Technologies at the State House for tomorrow, Tuesday, October 21st. The bill would aid in the development of 300 million mixed-use project featuring slots and horse racing in Wareham by the Notus Group, by allowing the Massachusetts Gaming Commission to explore all valuable options for Region C, including issuing a Category 2 licensing in Region C in place of a Category 1 license. The bill does not cite any particular gaming facility at any given location. Furthermore, any license awarded will remain subject to the competitive bidding process outlined under the current state law, as well as local approval. And that's all for this morning's news. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you what to expect outside. Good morning, Wareham, and welcome back. And now to your weather forecast. So with me today, it's going to be bright and sunny, as you can see, high at 61 and low at 49. Not a lot of wind today to worry about. And so the day is fantastically perfect. And also for tomorrow, things are going to turn around, as you can see. The picture looks a little grimy, almost looks like Halloween kind of weather. So it's going to be 59 degrees for the high and 55 for the low. Not a lot of difference there. But we're going to experience some rain in the afternoon. We should be expecting some rain showers, and also later on at night. Clear skies for both nights today and tomorrow. But the only difference is just the rain. So make sure you dress accordingly and you carry with you your umbrellas. And that's all for this morning weather forecast. We're now going to move on to our first featured program of the day. And with me is Cindy Irvin Photography. Take a look.
Hello, I'm Cindy from Cindy Irving Photography. I specialize mostly in family portraits as well as corporate and business beauty headshots. Well, I always loved taking portraits, so I was the one at the dinner table or at holidays where my brother was like, get out of my face. Most of my family was like, all right, Cindy, put the camera down. That was me, always with the camera. Let's see, 2011, I got my first DSLR, the digital camera, and then I kind of played around with that, went to school in Costa Rica, studied photography, and so I remember saying it was like, I'm all done, like this is too hard, I'll just shoot on manual, like I'm not trying to be a photographer, which is kind of funny looking back at it now. And then I ended up having my daughter, and I took out my camera again, kind of just played around with it, but nothing fancy. The way I really got into photography was my friend. She said, hey Cindy, you have a fancy camera, can you take pictures of my newborn? And I'm like, yeah, I have a fancy camera, but I'm not a photographer, so I can't take pictures of your newborn. She's like, please, I really want pictures of my newborn. And I'm just like, all right, we can try it. I can't promise you anything. So that was my very first like shoot for someone. I went to San Diego my first year probably photographing to meet with a group that I was part of. So that was my very first like travel for photography. And then later on I ended up going to places like Seattle where I did family photo shoots. I've been to in Poland. When I was in Poland I got to do some family shoots. Let's see, New Mexico, I've done corporate work there, New Orleans. So just kind of all over the States in a sense, although Poland and Belgium was one of those places where I did get to photograph, which was cool. Okay, so my process meeting a new client. Well, first they call me. We have that initial phone conversation, and I definitely encourage phone conversations because I get to talk to somebody, I get to hear their voice, they get to hear mine, we get to have a different type of connection versus if I'm, trying to go through emails. So after that, if we seem like a match, I have them come in for a consultation so they can see what I have to offer. Because me talking about, like, oh, this photo mounted like this, like, nobody's gonna understand that. You have to come and touch it, as you saw some of my stuff. So after that, the next process would be the photo shoot, which is the super fun part. And then after that, I have something called a viewing and ordering session, which is when I go to the client's house, we do a consultation, almost kind of like an interior designer, because I'm basically, if they're doing wall art, I'm designing design for their walls, like what layouts are we going to do for the galleries, and so that's pretty much my process for that. So my favorite part is the delivery. Because that's when I get to reveal that, oh my God, look at your photo, it looks amazing. And it's always such a different experience from a digital, because looking at a digital on the computer and seeing that, but versus seeing it printed, there's just something magical about that print, something magical about having it in your home. My favorite portrait, I should have brought in, but it's the one you saw of my daughter. She is such an outdoors person, and I'm kind of like, all right, let me stay huddled inside. And so that portrait in particular was her playing outside. And so for her playing outside is fun. For me, capturing the moments is fun. So I'm like, all right, compromise. You're outside, I'm taking the camera. We're both happy. And so I just kind of snapped the portrait. It's just her face and her eyes. And just something about her eyes for me. It's just like, there in that photo, it just looks like the world. Like I could see the world in her eyes. And so that one, as you saw, I probably printed a million times. But I love looking at that because it's my baby, but it's also like I'm just looking deep into her eyes. Well, the recipe, I think, is to definitely have everybody be comfortable. And so that's why I like to meet clients ahead of time and not at the photo shoot, because at that point you already kind of built a relationship, and so they kind of know you. Maybe the kids not so much, because depending if they bring their kids or not to the consultations, but you just kind of develop that relationship where everybody's kind of comfortable once you get to that point of the shoot. And then for little kids, if they haven't met me yet, kind of tucking the camera away for a little bit and kind of getting to know them, getting down on their level, saying like, I'm Cindy, how are you? What's your favorite, princess, or what's your favorite cartoon character? And just kind of like building that bond first. And I think once you have that, you have the trust of your clients, especially the little ones. And so just going from there, I think that's important.
Those long legs pay off.
Right, you guys are awesome. All right, so we're gonna head over to the beach.
All right.
The first few shots I'm gonna take, there's like a grass in that area. We're gonna start there. And so after that, we'll do like the rocks over there and stuff. I'll show you guys. Just follow me. All right.
Better.
Looks good. All right, Steve, let's see if you can sit on that rock. I'm gonna see how you look. Excuse me.
Stress down.
Perfect. I'm gonna adjust you guys. All right, don't look at me, Liv. Ah, I said don't look. Give her a little tickle, Steve. I don't know if her belly's, oh, beautiful. My role as a photographer, I believe, is to capture these memories for people so that they can look back on it and, hopefully see this time where the kids were little, or just kind of go back into the past and relive that moment. And I want it to be a happy moment where they're looking at that and saying like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, little Timmy was so little, but that was such a fun day, and I miss that, and something where they can pass on to generations. So my role is to have something tangible that they can look back on.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that program. And now we are going to take a look at what did Debbie do. She is not your average Debbie. And unlike her sister Debbie Downer, this Debbie is a Debbie doer. Hence the big question, what did Debbie do? The business, what did Debbie do? I mean, there's possibility.
Yep.
Plethora of questions.
We get asked that every time. All the art shows. What did Debbie do? And they're standing right in front of the tent, and I'm like, it's a way to cut the ice and get people talking and laughing, and then of course they're going to come in.
Yeah.
And look around, and you never know what's going to happen.
An enthusiast for bright colors, Debbie is the artist behind these loud, extravagant, and emotive artworks. From murals, painted furniture, to jewelry, what didn't Debbie do? Now, your pieces are very colorful.
Yes.
The one behind me, it's blue and
Yep.
purple, gold.
Yep.
Very, very colorful, very bright. But when I saw it, it was almost like seeing a spirit, free.
Yes. And that's how I feel when I paint.
Okay.
Yes. I do my artwork, and I'm in my own world. I shut the door. I open the window, put the fan on, because you're working with alcohol, so you got to have a little bit of ventilation. And I start making colors, and I start making that picture, and that's all that's in my mind right there. I'm just creating.
She professionally started working as a full-time artist 3 years ago. However, her love for art is hereditary.
Ever since I was little, I would sit and sketch and paint, and I did the whole Bob Ross thing, and I did the landscape. Like I said, I did a number of different things to see, what do I like?
So I get your message. You want people to feel happy, and it's very important, especially, I do not want to just pinpoint today and age, but with stress, whatever people are going through, it's always important to have a place, something to remind you that there is a brighter day. But what do you feel is your obligation as an artist?
Oh, good question. My obligation, I think, is I want to make people happy. I want to bring color into their lives. I think I see people get happy. It makes me happy, and then I just go on from there. It's like my drug. It really. I don't do drugs, but when I see people, this is my drug, and to see people happy, it fulfills me. So, I guess that's what it is.
Do you always use white canvases, or you also play with others?
So, that's a good question too, because I do like the white. I love the negative space. I think it creates, it makes your eyes move around the whole painting, so you get the full effect.
Now, for those who would come to your art shows, would see a beautiful piece, and they would say to themselves, geez, it's gorgeous, but I bet I can get a painting in Walmart, whatever, cheaper. How do you defend your price, your art?
So, no one's actually ever said that to me before, but if they do, I say, go right ahead. Anyone could go in and buy that piece of art, but what does it mean to you? It's not going to have the same emotional background of when you go to that art show and you meet the artist and you talk to the artist and you get a piece from that artist, and it's a personal piece that, whether it's commissioned or not, it means something. It always reminds you of that day that you saw it and said, oh, that's beautiful. So I think it has more background than walking into a Walmart or a Home Goods and going, yeah, I like that, let's get it and bring it home.
Forever and ever till the end of time. Oh, why don't you take me to the moon?
For more answers to what did Debbie do, please visit debbiedidit.com.
Walk up to you, do 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 you.
You too can find out more about What Did Debbie Do by visiting debbiedidit.com. So right now we're going to feature my trip to the Buttonwood Park Zoo located in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Take a look. Zoos have come a long way since 1874, when the first public zoological park in Philadelphia debuted in the country. During their nascent days, zoos were a place where animals lived in captivity and are put on display for people to view. The perception has long changed. Nowadays, zoos across the country are a safe haven for endangered species.
When you're choosing species to the zoo, it's no longer what is the most popular. It's really focused on what species need the most work. And when I say that, it means what species really need the work from a conservation standpoint. Species that are threatened, species that are endangered, that really need to be at zoos, a part of captive breeding programs to help these species from going extinct.
Buttonwood Park Zoo's Animal Hospital assures the well-being and population of these species. So in case you're wondering, why is it important to assure the survival of species apart from yours?
And you do get that question a lot. What do I care? Why would I need to change my habits? Well, everything's an ecosystem. Everything is connected. So you can say, oh, well, I don't need red panda. Well, that impacts so many things. Not only the other animals in its environment, the plants in its environment, seed dispersal. There's a lot of things. The entire plant here is interconnected. And when you start losing these major species in these ecosystems, it has far-reaching impact. We can see in our own backyard. Best example I can give you. We have all kinds of problems with Lyme disease on the South Coast. Well, that's because our deer populations is so high. Why is our deer population so high? The natural predators, the cougars, the wolves, they don't exist anymore. The only thing that's out there is the coyote. Well, the coyote doesn't eat the mice to spread the ticks to the deer. There's a whole ecosystem. So how does it affect me? Well, you worried about Lyme disease? Well, that's one of the reasons, is because species have gone extinct, even in our backyard.
Do we always draw such a straight line?
It's never a straight line. And one of the difficult things from a biological standpoint and from an evolutionary standpoint is oftentimes the impact are not immediately known. It doesn't happen overnight. There are some species that go extinct and it's immediately felt in the ecosystem. Many of them have long-term implications.
My first visit to Buttonwood Park Zoo in New Bedford cemented that thought. The Buttonwood Park Zoo is one of the oldest urban and suburban zoos in the country. It first opened its doors in 1894 and are currently celebrating 125 years of conservation commitment to more than 50 endangered and threatened species. Walking around the zoo, it is hard to believe its age, all thanks to the cosmetic surgery back in 1996.
Yeah, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the zoo closed for a complete remodel. There was, it was showing its age back then. So the entire zoo was done over, and that's about 20 years ago now. So yes, it was definitely a bright and shiny new zoo and an old footprint. And right now we're actually working on a master plan. It's been about 20 years since the zoo reopened, and we're working on updating everything at this point as well.
A component of the master plan was the expansion of Emily and Ruth Habitat, the two oldest residents in the zoo, in addition to opening Forest, Rivers, and Reef Reservation in 2017.
One great thing about the Rainforest Rivers and Reefs building is that we created mixed habitats, particularly on the Amazon side of the building. And what that basically means is that we don't have a singular species in one exhibit. We have a variety of different species living together, and that can be everything from small monkeys to tropical birds like parrots. We have lizard species, and we even have tons of fish species down below. Now, from an animal perspective, there's a lot of stimulation going on. There's all kinds of different animals. They need to learn how to cohabitate with all these different animals, and it creates not only a rewarding environment for the animals, it also creates a rewarding experience for the visitors that are coming to the zoo.
So part of our master plan is to redesign our barn area into the Nature Connection Education Center. So the barn itself is being retrofitted into 4 new classroom spaces, as well as a brand new animal ambassador facility where we'll be able to have our animal ambassadors get up close and personal with our visitors on a more regular basis than they are now.
Working with Nature Explorer, Charlie's Nature Play and Outdoor Nature Playground opened last July. The zoo also runs classes and public programs to help people best understand nature and the world around them.
So this is called Science on a Sphere. This is a tool that was developed by NOAA to be a way to visualize kind of global data. So what we're looking at right now is an actual satellite image taken from space of Earth. And what we're able to do with this is really do lessons. We do a ton of school programming and some public programming on things like weather, space, and really anything in between. So we have, let's see, right now we're looking at over 660 different data sets that we can put up on the sphere. Everything from the age of the seafloor, which is what is up there now, to, let's pick some other fun things that we can see. Bird migration patterns. So truly we can do a lot of really neat things with the sphere. So right here you can see they've put 2 data sets on top of each other. One is air temperature and the other one is bird populations. So you can see how bird populations may or may not move with the change in temperatures and seasons.
Now, for those who would say to you, wild animals do not belong in the zoo, what do you say?
I agree. I get this question all the time. Why? I need to qualify that, don't I? I get this question all the time. I'm a zoo director. I've been working in zoos for about 30 years now, and I wish there wasn't a need for zoos. I really wish that we could all just enjoy animals out in the wild, but that's not reality. Reality is species are becoming threatened, endangered, and going extinct at record levels. There are species that are at the Buttonwood Park Zoo and other zoos around the country that barely exist in the wild or are extinct in the wild. And the only chance for these species ever to survive or to ever be reintroduced back into the wild is the captive breeding programs of accredited zoos. So in a perfect world, you wouldn't need to have zoos. We have such lush wildlife interacting with humans. That's not the world we live in. The world we live in is that wildlife's under constant threat, and zoos are at the forefront of saving these species, from captive breeding programs for reintroduction and also for conservation in the field as well.
So whether you're in for the exotic experience and look at the beautiful pandas to the majestic elephants, or you're interested in seeing the faces of your occasional neighbors, Buttonwood Park Zoo may just be the answer. All great information this morning. So right now, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with our normal programming.
Today's cell phones are not only an extension of our arms, but a life tool. Hello, I am Maureen Farrington from Advantage Custom Apps. I am here today to talk about a certain app, a tool that will help you navigate your way through the Wareham community. The WCTV app places your local community in the palm of your hand. The app is a place where you will find local events, town meetings, local and school sports, community interest stories, compelling interviews, and most of all, the ability to shop local. Connect to the Wareham app by going to your web browser and typing in wctv.app. And then, once you bring up the web link, you have the opportunity of adding WCTV's app to your home screen. Once you download the app and save it to your home screen, you will then have the opportunity to, with the touch of a finger, hit the call button, which we call WCTV, the refer us button. You can refer the app to your friends and families. There's a Facebook share button if you'd like to put that on your Facebook page as well. And here is the menu tab. On the menu tab, we have YouTube videos, new program proposal, events that WCTV is hosting, a photo gallery, contact button and can lead you right to their website. We also have a Shop Local tab. When you touch on that, you'll see the local businesses that you can frequent. Also, there's an About Us tab telling you some information about WCTV, their hours and directions. This here will take you right to their Facebook page. There is a donate button if you would like to donate to WCTV, and a join button that will let you join their community. Many local establishments are listing their business on the WCTV app. And you can too. It's a great way to showcase your business to your existing customers and your potential new ones. For a nominal fee, you could list your business on the Shop Local tab as well. A percentage of that fee goes to fund a scholarship for an outgoing senior. So be in the now and get the WCTV app on your home screen.
Hello, and thank you for being with us this morning. We're broadcasting live from our WCTV studio. This is Good Morning Wareham, your source for local news, weather, traffic, and more information. And now for a moment in history, let's take a look at where we were today in history. So on this day in museum history, Guggenheim Museum was opened in New York City in 1959. The museum is named after its founder, who was a former mining tycoon who became an art collector. The museum, located near Central Park in New York City, was very unique architecture that attracted nearly a million of visitors, and does still each year. And also today in music history, a large group of musicians got together to perform a benefit concert for the victims of 9/11. The concert showed an electric array of artists, including pop artists like Backstreet Boys, Destiny's Child, and Michael Jackson, to legendary stars like James Brown. The concert took place in D.C., and funds went on to support organizations such as American Red Cross and Salvation Army. Also today in protest history, almost 100,000 people marched to protest the Vietnam War in 1967, with President Lyndon B. Johnson raising taxes to help give more money to the war effort. The public began to become more restless and less supportive of the campaign in Vietnam. Of 100,000 who protested, 50,000 marched on to Pentagon to make sure their voices were heard. Sadly, and to the dismay of much of the country, the United States would stay in Vietnam until the mid-1970s. For today's birthday, shout out goes to Carrie Fisher, best known for her iconic role as Princess Leia in the Star Wars films. Born in California in 1956, she passed away in 2016 prior to the release of her film Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. She was an accomplished actress whose work will always be remembered. And that's all for this morning history segment. To learn more cool historical facts, you can go online under history.com. The coffee segment is next, but first, let's take a look at our events calendar. Good morning, Wareham, and now it's the coffee segment. With me is your favorite selectman, Alan Slavin, in the studio to, well, add his 2 cents on the debate over naming the new elementary school. Welcome.
Welcome. 1 cent.
1 cent. So, Alan, I think we should start talking about what is the process of naming a school, what it has been in the past.
Really don't know, how it was done before. Obviously, the Minor School was named after the Minor family who donated a large portion of Minor Forest to the town. And that was probably done because of the contribution. Same thing for the Deacon School. Deacon's family had, obviously, provided some either financial or other reasons for that, whether it was land or whatever. And that's why it was done that way. With the MSBA, when the application went in, it was discussed back then, and there was issues, about how they're going to name the school, per se, because you're taking two schools, combining them into one. Originally, the school department and the school committee wanted to build two separate buildings. And I don't know if I was chair at the time, because we move it around. My comment was, it makes no sense to build two separate buildings with like a walkway between the two, because you'd have double a bunch of things cost-wise. As far as running, it would be more than it should be. I insisted at that time that you could build one. They kept coming back and telling me, no, the MSBA won't allow that. Turns out that, geez, out of the blue, all of a sudden the MSBA said, sure, you can do that. So obviously, maybe I wasn't wrong. So the school was being built on the exact same basic footprint as the original Minor School. And one reason for that is if you go too far outside the footprint, you may dig up Indian artifacts, and Mass Historical could come in and unfortunately could shut the whole project down. So that's the way it was left. And there was discussion at that time, not by the selectmen, but by the school department and the building committee, who basically processed, the application at the MSBA and everything else, that the easiest way was to call it the Deacon, the Deacon School, or actually the Deacon Elementary School at Minor Forest. That way both families were, taken care of, and from a historical standpoint and everything else, it made most sense. And that's the application. Now all of a sudden, I'm hearing that they want to call it the Wareham Elementary School, and maybe you can't really take a wing because it's one big building, and have one piece, one name, one piece, another. In my opinion, it's complete foolishness. We applied and got, the grant from MSBA for I think it's just about 70% of the $90 million under the name of the Deacon School at Minor Forest. And I think both those families deserve to have their names in perpetuity there.
Their argument is that the name Deacon School at Minor Forest, that was a placeholder until they vote on a final name.
That's their impression. That's not mine, as far as I'm concerned.
Why do you feel it's more than impression?
Well, because we applied for it as the other way. There was never any discussion about changing the name or anything else. If they wanted to use a different name from the beginning, then it was up to them to go ahead and bring that through. This is like revisionist history. You're going back and you want to change something after you've already committed to it. And I think there's better things in life for the school department than to be sitting there and the school committee and to be sitting fighting about the naming of a school. I'm more concerned about the education of students and how the schools are being run.
So what about the argument of those who are saying it's a brand new school? How about we just name it Wareham Elementary School to go on with the same naming system as the Wareham Middle School, Wareham High School?
In my particular opinion here is because the elementary schools were named after particular people, we should keep that history. I don't think we should sit there. We lose enough history as it is. We've unfortunately, for some people, the Toby Homestead. I, of course, was, basically I thought that the ER was a little more important overall because the homestead really wasn't salvageable because nobody was going to step up and fix it or do anything. But at a certain point in time, you have to maintain some of your history. And it's a school. It's going to be a school. How we name it is really, if we're sitting there having to spend time, effort, and monies to fight about how we name a school, that's complete foolishness. Let's go back to the core. The core is educating students. Doesn't matter what the name of the building is.
So there's also the question of who has the authority to name a school.
Well, I think probably the school committee could have done it, but they went ahead and applied for it under that original name. So as far as I'm concerned, that's it. If we go to town meeting, I guess in the spring, and they want to bring it up as a warrant article for naming it, I can tell you right now, I'm going to not vote for it. As simple as that.
Simple as that. Okay. So do you think this whole fuss, is it, according to you, it's not worth really the discussion, but...
It's not worth a piece of toilet paper. So that should give you a good idea.
So that's it. Now, the member of the Dickus family, Cindy Perlella, was here, but I have yet to meet with the member of the Manett family. Have you heard from them?
No, when Bill passed away, I'm not sure who's left and around. Bill was an interesting character. He wrote books, he wrote screenplays and everything else. And Bill had a really interesting, actually had a great life, I think. But again, I just, I'm not going to change my mind because it's just simply recognizing families in Wareham that stood up and did something. I mean, you go into the YMCA, it's, the Gleason YMCA. The Gleason family gave them land. If someone was to come in and change the name, make an expansion or something to the Gleason Y and take the Gleason name off, that would be horrible.
Okay.
Because that Y would never be there without the Gleason stepping up and doing it. Never would have happened.
So you're not buying into the argument of inclusion. Do we benefit, does the town or the school department benefit from naming a school after the town?
No.
Okay. So no politics gains at all?
I don't
Political
care.
gain?
I do what's right. I don't do what's politically correct. If I have to sit there and do something in order to get reelected, and that's all that matters, then you're not going to get that from me.
Okay.
I just don't believe in that. I just believe in you do the right thing, and if there's political fallout, that's fine. You take the hit for it, but you do what's right. And I think this is wrong.
You're so steadfast. You're like, this is it.
You have to have,
Have you given the other argument a chance at all? Have you thought about it? Have you thought of where they're coming from? Okay.
Yeah, I gave it 5 minutes, and I laughed and said, you're out of your mind. And there's better things to do than to sit there and fight about naming a school. You already have the two schools. You're combining them into one. You already told me you couldn't do it in 2 buildings. It turns out you can. I wanted to put the school originally, personally, over by the middle school and the high school area because everything would be in one complex, so it would save more money. And the answer was no, and they insisted on going the other way. So I finally gave in on that one, as long as it was one building, which it ended up being. So, no.
No. Okay. All right, so the town meeting is next Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
Monday.
Monday is next Monday. I want to wait to start on Monday. So
Speaking of the week, it's fun. It's electronic voting. It's a great time. Years ago, I watched town meeting. You could see people watching how other people were voting, and people would look around and everything else. And I always felt that, businesses in particular would not come to town meeting because they didn't want to take a risk. And I had one person who had a restaurant, was fairly new. They went to town meeting and they spoke out on something, and it took them months to recover from how they voted. And I just, it just reinforced what my thought was. Electronic voting didn't exist when I thought about it originally. Then Claire Smith, our moderator, decided that there was electronic voting and brought that out, and I was fully supporting seeing how we could do it. And we turned around and we basically had given up on it because there was no funding available. The town didn't have the money for it, and there was no appetite for it at the time. Community Events Committee gets money every year. It's about $45,000 a year out of parking and hotel monies. Jimmy Potter, who was a selectman, put that particular program into place and got past the town meeting. Now, we had Jimmy come back and meet with the committee, and we asked him, when you put this together, what were the reasons you're going to do it, and how would you use the money? And one of the things he mentioned was, well, we were going to also look at town meeting and find ways to make it more enjoyable and run better, et cetera. So at that point there, I said, well, would electronic voting be something like, would be part of what you had in mind? He said, yes. So at that point there, the Community Events Committee decided, they made a motion, was approved, to go ahead and to pay for electronic voting, which means now that's sustainable. It wouldn't be a one-shot deal. So we were set to go, and then the company who we contacted said, we'll give you the first one free. So right now, it's not costing the town anything at all. Come next spring, if everybody's happy with it, it seems it's worthwhile, then we can continue doing it. And that's how this is all transposed. But I think I went to two different, actually I went to one and make the second one, where they had electronic voting and they had a couple glitches right in the beginning, which is what I was hoping for. And they were able to take care of it within like 2 or 3 minutes. It was fixed and gone. People were hitting the wrong buttons because there's like an A and a B as far as what channel you're on. So people have to play with things. We have buttons and stuff. Guys especially, we like to play with buttons. You know, stuff. It's remote. My wife, I don't let her use the remote for the TV because every time she touches the remote, she hits a button and it takes me about an hour to fix it. So, I mean, that was that simple. They just bang, it was there. And they had like 600 people there at their town meeting. I think it was Linfield. And it was just, I just sat there and watched, and it was smooth and easy. You know, you hit there, you tell everybody to vote, 20 seconds to vote, and the numbers are right up on the board, and that's it.
Do we really feel that the reason why town meetings we are seeing fewer and fewer numbers is due to the lack of privacy, or is it due to the lack of apathy regarding?
Well, apathy, I think, is a good answer for a lot of it. I think people feel as though that, for the most part, it really doesn't matter how they vote, so they don't show up. The only time we really have a big turnout, I think, is when you're taking money out of someone's pocket. When something comes up for an article that affects taxes, or just you're going to have to pay more or spend more money, you know, like for a school or whatever else, you know, those things come up and stuff. Marijuana, which is another issue, those bring people out. If you don't have those kind of articles before town meeting, the turnout is terrible. That's why I think it was, 2 years ago, I wrote an article for a zero quorum. And I don't think everybody understood what a zero quorum meant. Because we had, you know, a basic quorum, and then we had to have 150 people if it was $5,000 or more. So it could be a real problem if the articles came out, you know, in such a way that, say there was a whole bunch of people came for one article, and you'll see it all the time, they'll get up and leave after the article is over. Or you could end up with the budget and stuff not being able to pass because not enough people. So the zero quorum was something I figured I'd tried. I wasn't sure it'd even go over at all, but I think it was unanimously voted for. And I'm not sure everybody understood what it means. It means simply if the clerk and the moderator, which have to be there, are there and nobody else, town meeting still goes on. And the two of those people can vote on everything. Yes, no, whatever. So if you don't show up, you know, you may end up with something you don't like.
Well, one of the bigger ticket items this time is the sewer department, and they are asking for.
That article's being changed around, though.
Change the point that we're not going to see it this time meeting?
We'll see it, but it's not quite the same.
What are they asking now?
Well, they have a certain amount of money that they're looking for, which to do a piece of it. It's not the whole. It's not exactly the $10 million up front, is my understanding now, because the question I have, and I think everybody has, is if we spend this money, will it fix the odor problem? And that's what everybody's looking at. And there's other things we need to do that aren't really part of the odor problem, but will help as far as the surges and everything else when we go over capacity with a big storm. Because I can guarantee you that nobody can tell me that whatever they do will fix the odor problem. There's always going to be something. If you go to Hyannis, and as you head into Hyannis, there's their water pollution control facility, you know you're there. The smell in the air changes. And that's a really well enclosed, very efficient system over there. And you know it. So it's not going to fix. So how are you going to vote $10 million or something if you think it's strictly to fix the odor issue and you know you can't fix it? Because there isn't an engineer out there that will tell us that they'll guarantee us the odor will be gone.
So if the water cannot be fixed, and I take it that the odor, it's very prevalent around that area, closer to the plant.
Oh, sure.
There are some, there are some private residency there, private homes.
And there's no way the town
can purchase those from them?
Well, if you say every home is worth $300,000 and there's 30 homes, in order to do that, the people who are on sewer are going to have to pay for that. It's the cost of operating the plant. I don't think I'm going to be the one that's going to tell them to go ahead and do that. you know, we're already taxing everybody at the limit as it is.
So the another debate, they were talking about the question of whether this was going to raise the funds or not, and they said not in the first meeting.
Well, they have money they have money which they can go ahead, but if you borrow money, you still have to pay it back. So it's going to cost, you know, the town or the rate holders, depending how it's done. But you're going to have to do something because we are at capacity, actually. And that's what they're trying to do this time here is they want to add another pool, if you want to call it that, for water when you have overage, so you can go in there. But the stuff goes in there and it's basically untreated and then comes back into the plant because the plant can only treat so much at a time. The plant can only discharge so much at a time, and we're running right up against it now. I kind of wish we hadn't done the Redbrook, you know, 40B project because we really don't have capacity for that actually at this point until we fix what we got.
So that means all development projects will have to put on hold until our sewer can take it?
In the near future, we're probably going to have to say we don't have sewer capacity as of right now. So that's an issue in itself, and which means either you really can't, this project about going back into the Maritime Academy and output there, that's a project that will take quite a while to get done. That's one option. The other option is to put another facility somewhere else in town that ground discharges. But, you know, we're running into the same problem that the Cape is running, et cetera. Everybody's under the gun for this. And there's a thing called TMDL, which the state is about to release, which tells you how much you can actually contribute into the, you know, into Buzzards Bay. And of course, Wareham, everything comes down through us and goes out at the Buzzards Bay. All the underground water, everything else that everybody's dumping stuff in. So when that number comes out shortly, we may be under even more restrictions than we have now.
All right, so we got that, and it's been remanded, the article. So what else you think, according to your opinion, that it may draw people in?
I don't think there's much else. It's pretty quiet. If we had the casino ready to go, that would draw people in. Just so everybody understands, on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, there is a hearing, I think it's Economic Development and New Technologies Committee, House and Senate. It's a joint meeting. I think it's 10 o'clock tomorrow to discuss the possibility of considering changing what they call a Class 1 license for Southeast Mass. And that will be the beginning of the stuff. And as far as it goes, if this gets done, what it does is, because I represent Southeast Mass for SERPED as a chair of the commission, it means anybody in the Southeast region can also apply for that modified license. So even though Wareham has a group that's, you know, made an application, anybody else can step up and do it. So it doesn't guarantee that the notice group gets something. It just means it's available for them as an opportunity. And this is an opportunity for the town, and the town will make a decision because there'll be a vote, basically. It'll be like a ballot initiative question. Do you want the casino or not? And it's a very interesting question, and it's convoluted because it has a casino, a 300-room hotel. It's got a horse track, which some people are concerned about animal safety. It's going to have a baseball complex. It's probably going to have a few more other things long term.
And on top of that, we are concerned about our sewer and if it can partake that.
Well, they would have their own system there anyways.
Okay.
So they're not going to be looking at this point here, because if it was that case, then somehow or another Shangri-La, which really should be sewered, would end up with a whole project there.
Okay.
So that's even more pieces. Of course, the Route 25 piece, which is on the CIP.
We'll add another exit.
And that's another whole piece to get done. So nothing is simple.
Years in the making. You'll be long gone. Retired.
I'll be long gone.
Retired.
I'll be long gone.
All right, so Monday town meeting, you're expecting what, hundreds and hundreds, so that at least they can come and press the button?
We got a bug.
I got a bug?
Right there. Spider.
Oh my goodness, yes. Are you expecting hundreds or 60?
I would like to see a really good turnout, simply to see how electronic voting goes.
Okay.
And see if it actually brings more people in. I wish we had more. Wish we had some articles that would bring people out to start with. It's a pretty benign town meeting. It should be done in one night quite easily.
Okay. Well, I'm with you there. Hopefully 1 minute, it's done.
Hey,
In 1
Mr.
hour.
Spider.
All right, with me was Alan Slavin, your favorite selectman in the studio. He talked about added his 1 cent on naming of the new elementary school. He's adamant the name should be what it said during the entire process. That is Dickey School at Minot Forest. We also talked about the big ticket items for Monday's town meeting and how hopeful we are for the new casino, level 2 casino, that we're not going to see anytime soon. Anyhow.
Between a 1 and a 2, actually.
Oh, between the 1 and the 2. So this concludes this morning's show. If you missed us, you can revisit this program tonight at 6 p.m. and it'll also go on our YouTube channel, Wareham Community Television on YouTube. We'll be back on Wednesday with more and Friday with the school department to hear their story. Bye, Wareham.